So today, to my Dhamma brothers and sisters, today is the time when the Buddha became enlightened. The Buddha Bhagavan. And regarding us, we are the followers of the Buddha, the teacher. And in a sutra, it says, the sages do not wash away the sins of beings, nor do they do not remove their suffering with their hands, nor do they transfer their own realization into others. But the Buddhas, of course, they have the intention to share, to teach, or to lead sentient beings out of the suffering. So the Buddhas have compassion, bodhicitta, and so they cannot wash away the sins or non-virtuous actions of sentient beings with water. Of course, the Buddhas cannot stand the suffering of sentient beings, but the suffering of sentient beings cannot be removed by his hands. And he cannot give, like sharing something. He cannot transfer his realizations into others. But then, for many eons, if the Buddha had dedicated himself thinking of benefiting sentient beings and accumulated merit and wisdom for over 3 countless eons, and then finally became a Buddha, an enlightened one, and how does he help sentient beings overcome suffering? The answer is, he shows us what the cause of suffering is and whether that cause can be eradicated or not. So he cannot transfer his realization into others, but because suffering does not arise without causes and conditions, suffering happens because of its causes and conditions. And if you look at the cause, try to see what that cause is. That is not something like a creator God, but because of this uncontrolled and undisciplined mind. And because of that, we are overcome with anger and hatred and attachment and so forth, and thereby create actions or karma. So with regard to the how to go about with the dharma, the teaching of the Buddha, as this verse, as it is said, that things are merely designated, but they do not have any independent objective existence. But When we look at things, the things appear to have some kind of objective, independent existence, and then we accordingly grasp at that way of appearance of the things, as if they have some existence from their own side. So that perception of grasping and clinging on to some objective, independent existence in things is a distorted view. So, pleasure and pain do not happen because of, without any causes. So even the non-Buddhist traditions also say that suffering and pleasure comes from causes and conditions. So with regards to our experiences of pain and pleasure, why do they happen to us is because of our wrong outlook, distorted outlook on how things exist. And therefore, the Buddha came out with the teaching on the Four Noble Truths, saying suffering must be known, the cause of suffering, origin of suffering must be eradicated, this is true cessation must be actualized, and then the path must be cultivated. So, of course, we are not aware of the very subtle forms of suffering, but suffering can be categorized into the obvious painful experiences, which are called suffering of suffering, and then suffering of change, and then the pervasive conditioning, existential suffering. So, suffering does not happen without any causes and conditions, but it comes through causes and conditions. And the causes of suffering are twofold. One is action, as the origin or cause, and then the other is kleshas, or mental afflictions. So now the question is whether there is an antidote to this origin of suffering, and whether that antidote can eliminate and eradicate these causes of suffering. So the Buddha taught that all phenomena, everything is devoid of any substantial self, and that they are empty. So because our distorted state of mind causes suffering to us, and therefore we need to overcome and eradicate the karma and mental afflictions, which are the causes of suffering. So these are, in turn, of the two, the mental afflictions are the main cause, because all the karma go back to that. And so we need to put efforts in trying to reduce the cause of suffering, karma, and the delusions. And mainly, the delusions must be countered. So what opposes that delusion, if there is an opposition to it, then if you increase the strength of that counterforce of the delusions, then these delusions will be reduced. So things appear to us as if they have some objective independent existence, existing from their own side. When we become attached or angry at something or somebody, we immediately say, that is the cause of my anger or attachment. Or when you have an attachment, you kind of perceive that object or the person as having that beauty. However strong and powerful these distorted states of mind may be, when they are countered by their antidote, they will naturally be reduced in their strength. So, though you may be at a young age, you may be somebody who's a really angry person, but as you grow up, from your experience, you see how bad anger is. And because of that awareness, and also because other people, your friends, will always say, oh, that is a short-tempered person. And so by seeing the faults of this anger, then instead of anger, if you are told that the person whom you become angry at, I mean, you need to actually show love or compassion. Then for Tibetans, we become angry because Chinese people have been atrocious to us. But instead of becoming angry at the perpetrators, if you think from the point of view of these people, the perpetrators themselves are like us, human beings. They are overpowered and overwhelmed by their own mental afflictions and negative emotions and so forth. And because of that, they cause us suffering. Then you will, instead of becoming angry, you will become compassionate towards them. And then we also have arrogance within ourselves, pride and arrogance. And all these negative emotions, if you really think closely, then what you actually will be able to see is that all the different kinds of unwanted experiences that you go through finally actually are caused by your own unruly mind, and therefore you feel other sentient beings as those who are actually helping you in your spiritual journey. And so you will not actually, look upon yourself as someone greater than, better than others.